I gotta spill the D. Last week on Friday, y'all know that we were on Raven's show, and we were guests, which is like a rarity. We're usually Gina never realized that when we're in the back, that our guests can hear us until she was a guest on the show, and she was like, "Did I ever say anything that was insulting?"
I know, because I could be swearing with Mama. Who knows what's going to happen? But our guest Brandy is here, and I did make an announcement earlier about it not being live on Facebook. I'm not sure if we are live on Facebook. StreamYard was having issues, so if someone's watching from Facebook, please let me know. And if not, we'll see y'all on YouTube. But I want to get Brandy right up here right away, because she's going to do something special for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show you her bio video. Shows you a little bit more about her, what she does, what she's all about. And she's never seen it either. So it's going to be her first time seeing it too. This week in the Foxton with Gina B and Mama D, we welcome Brandy Gilmore. She is a researcher and a mind-body healing expert who has been captivating audiences worldwide with her incredible ability to demonstrate radical healing using only the mind. She has even shown visual proof of the power of the mind using medical thermal imaging. Due to these breakthrough results, her case studies have been published in prestigious medical journal, and she has also delivered a mind-expanding TEDx talk and has been featured in several documentaries. Brandy's groundbreaking discoveries stemmed from her own debilitating injury after an accident in 2003 left her disabled, in excruciating pain, and without hope of recovery. Brandy began researching for a cure. Through years of exploring every avenue for healing, Brandy eventually discovered obscure research that changed the course of her life and resulted in complete recovery. Now, she is releasing her new cutting-edge book, Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body, where she shares the hidden research that is the key to her success. Several researchers and doctors have referred to Brandy's new book as a must-read. It holds an incredible missing key to healing. The reality is that our minds possess an extraordinary ability to heal, far beyond the placebo. And Brandy's new book helps the reader understand the missing link to mind-body healing and provides a simple step-by-step process on how we can all access this hidden healing potential in our own minds. And we welcome you, Brandy, and everyone to the Foxton. Welcome, Brandy.
What a welcome. What a welcome. It is so wonderful to connect with you guys, and just beautiful job on that. That was just
Amazing, isn't it?
welcome. Very welcoming. Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Just for an FYI, we are live on Facebook.
Okay, yay. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here, okay? See, I've got it on the corner there too, all right? Master your mind and energy to heal your body, okay? Not a quick read, but it is a easy read. It's, she speaks so that everybody can understand. She does these things as in when it says step-by-step process, it's legit. It is step-by-step process, okay? And she lists a lot of things as, everybody's issues will be in here. You will be, nodding and agreeing and everything through this whole entire process. And also her forward in here was by David Perlmutter, MD. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we did have him on the show a long time ago. But this is quite an amazing feat that you did, because you're not only writing it. Not a lot of people write these types of books, but they don't actually live it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. When you live it, and then I would say also, it was one thing to live it and research and figure it out, but then also to be able to then reverse engineer and show it under medical equipment. I think that also has just been has been powerful from all angles.
Yeah, it's like confirmation that what you knew, but confirmation for the rest of the people to go, she's actually talking truth.
Exactly. When I got better, I thought people are going to think this is crazy. My injury was 2003, so I was healed by about 2010. And I thought, as I as I healed myself, I thought people are going to think this is impossible. We hear about healing and especially, 20 years ago, not as much, but we hear
Yeah.
about it more, but a lot of people aren't getting the results, or they're trying, or they're meditating, they're doing all of these things and haven't been able to. And so I thought, I've just got to show people. And that's when I started showing people how to release pain, and they were amazed. And then I thought, and I would speak on stages and take volunteers from the audience. And I thought, someday somebody's going to think that's fake. That can't really happen. That person didn't really have neck pain or back pain. And that's when I said, I have to show it under medical equipment, because we're so amazing. We're incredible beings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm telling you, my father growing up used to always say, because he never wanted to turn the air conditioner on. And we'd be all dying. And we're saying, we are so hot. And he goes, if you think yourself cool, you will be cool. He's like, the power of the mind can heal anything. The power of the mind can change your physical temperature, all this stuff. If you're hot, think cold. If you're cold, think hot. Blah, 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 blah. And we're like, no. Turn the air conditioning on.
I love that you grew up with this stuff. That's incredible. Your father was into metaphysics?
Well, for the most part, yeah. And he'd say you can heal yourself, and we were never rushed off to a doctor. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, we had to. If we had to go to the doctors, then we go to the doctors. Lately, I mean, as I've gotten older, I have to go to the doctor a lot more. And right now, I'm sitting here like half crippled myself, and you're going to help me with that in a little bit. So stay tuned for that, people, because she's going to help me. But explain though, what happened to you? What was your accident, and how long were you in the wheelchair for?
I was a mess. I used to work in network engineering operations, and I had a car accident and then also a fall, and I fell just wrong, just right, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
But I literally went from living a full life to wheelchair, walker, cane, on morphine every day for over 6 years.
Damn.
And in so much pain, I didn't even want to move or breathe at times. It was bad. And I got down to like a size nothing. I was bones. And I was a mess.
Yeah.
I was a mess. And so I think the idea of healing with the mind would have seemed impossible. And it did. I mean, I thought I'm going to need a lot more than my mind to heal my physical body. But there were certain things in research that really woke me up. For example, people with multiple personality disorder can have different ailments when they're in different personalities. They can have high blood pressure in one, but not in another, pain in one, but not in another, blind in one personality. But there was a study of a woman blind in some personalities, but not in others. And I thought, wait a second.
I know, right?
How is this even possible?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, very, yeah. If the more you research, the more you're going to find.
Yeah.
Of this craziness that does, I mean, it's legit, it's real. But what else you found out too, though, is in your research, like how our bodies change, like how our cells are constantly repairing and replacing. And so we're getting like new bodies. And I like how you put it, like, so if we are getting like this repaired, renewed, and replaced skeletal system and whole, everything, why are these ailments still hanging around for years and years and years?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Right. And initially I thought that, the placebo. So that's how I was introduced to the mind. I had been trying everything from diet and supplements to frequencies and binaural beat, like all of the things, and nothing was working. And, nerve ablations, infusions, injections, all of the things. And I was going to even a top research hospital that, when I'd go in to see the doctors, 3-4 doctors would come in at a time. They would try to figure out a plan. I mean, I was like not taking no for an answer on, and so finally they got me into this study, and I thought, it's kind of like everything you hope for. Somebody's going to invent something new and you're going to get your life back. At least that was my hope. And so this study came up, and long story short, that day, the hospital, they wheeled me into the hospital. I go in to get this procedure, and the doctor, he looks at me and he says, you know what? We don't actually expect you to get better. You can't be a part of this study. And
What?
I know. I felt like I swallowed a golf ball. I was trying to, like a tennis ball or a grapefruit. I was just trying to choke back the tears. And after that, I was just like, well, what's the point in living? I cannot live like this.
Mm.
I think we've all had a moment like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Where you just think, I just can't do this anymore,
Mhm.
Oh, and I had a lot of those where I just, I wanted to just leave, and it scared me. It scared me because that's how my mind was thinking, but there was no point.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, but then I started thinking about the placebo, and I initially thought that it was only due to belief. So I just had to believe that I was better, believe that I was healed. And so I did that for well over a year, like forcing myself, visualizing, convincing myself, all of these things. It wasn't working. And then I found something called the open label placebo, which is where both the doctor and the patient both know it's fake, and it still works. And I was like, wait a
Wow.
second. I
Okay.
know, right? And what the funny thing is, most people don't know about the open label placebo, but the first open label placebo study, or it's also called the non-blind placebo because it's open,
Mm-hmm.
was back in 1965. But a lot of people still think it's all due to belief. Yeah, so that's what set me saying, okay, as you said wisely, Gina, the more you travel down the rabbit hole or the fox den, the more you
The foxhole. Yeah.
the more you travel down the foxhole, the more you realize none of it actually, everything points to the mind, from stress to nocebo to placebo to the awareness that even medical research has shown we have a whole new skeleton approximately every 10 years. And I thought, well, wait a second. How can somebody have that old football injury from high school?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I did the splits 4 years ago in the middle of a grocery store, 57 years old. I don't know.
It's not on purpose.
Oh, no.
Middle of the grocery store. I mean, you might have been showing off your moves.
No, it's been a while since I was able to do that. and I'm like,
not trying to.
no, and I've been on medication, and the doctor said you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. You would have been better off. You'd have broke something, yada yada yada. And I'm kind of, as you can see, I'm a redhead, so I'm kind of stubborn, and I do my very best to continue on. And I know that I always am going to have a certain amount of pain, but I'm the type of person who will be like, I don't feel like taking these pills today. I'm going to take them every other day instead of every day and see how that works. Oh, well, my body was like, oh, hell no, you're not doing that shit. So eventually, my mind's going to kick all this pain to the curb. Yeah.
I like that. That is a good plan.
Mm.
That is a good
Well, I need so much help because I got so many things, you know.
This
And
woman walks up and
I
down the stairs
all
too
this
many
stuff,
times and she
and
can't breathe anymore.
I can do chronic healing on other people and things like I can. When someone comes up to me and they say, I have this thing is going on, or they start talking about their health, my hands actually start heating up, and I'm already like, all right, well, let me see what I can do for you. However, I can't do it too well on myself, that way. So maybe what I got to do is get that out of my mind and open my mind to a different way. And that's where you come in.
Absolutely. Either one of you guys, if you want to, I'm happy. I'm to be of service. So anything, I'm happy to go down the rabbit hole or the fox den or the fox, whatever you want, because it's amazing. And most people don't believe we can actually do it. And even when you hear it,
Yeah.
it's hard to conceive of, because from the time I started working with my mind to actually figuring it out was years, because I had been doing, what was tricky is that I could meditate and I could get my pain down at times. So I thought, okay, well, then if I can get it down some, then more is better. And so I was spending hours in theta state, delta state, trying hypnosis, guided meditation, all of the things. And I started realizing that I needed to work with my mind in a different way. And that's when everything changed. But I got to that point where what ultimately happened is I had a friend of mine at the time. Her aunt was unfortunately dying from lung cancer. And she had read all the positive affirmations and the positive thinking. And then not only that, but she had been in hospice. So she was laying there in a deep state of relaxation, in and out of consciousness. And when I saw her, because my friend had called me up and said, do you want to say goodbye? And so I said yes. And as I was saying bye, I had this thought. I thought, gosh, this is probably what I look like. The affirmations, the positive thinking, the deep state of relaxation.
Mhm.
I need to do something else. So it was kind of just like,
Awakening. Yeah.
yeah, it was one of those moments.
Yeah, yeah. We have those aha moments, and it's just, whatever it is that triggers that moment. And no matter how much you
Yeah.
study, no matter how many people I have on this show, no matter how many books I read, or different books, I it's until something clicks
Mhm.
that you're gonna get it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and I would say, and by the way, all those things can be great. I don't want to say anything negative about
No,
meditation. All of those things could be great. It took more. And I would agree. I had multiple clicks. So maybe I needed more than one click. They were like click, click, click.
Mhm.
So there was different clicks at different times.
Brandy's a little stubborn, like
there
extra
you go.
clicker. Yeah.
Me?
Get that clicker out there. Click, 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 click. No. Yeah. Good. I know, because I have neck issues that stems from accidents. I had 7 car accidents between 16 and 21, and whiplash every time. So my neck is a mess. The front here, this is all fusing together. Like all these bones are fusing. So if you look at an X-ray of mine, it looks like a beak, like all these little beaks going down. So it's hard to, move and
And if you want to work with it, we
mm,
can absolutely do that.
yep.
And yep.
And it goes into the shoulder, and I broke this collarbone, and I got COPD and emphysema due to COVID, and I have nerve things in my legs, and I have, like so many things. I'm getting a shot of cortisone in my hand,
Uh,
all this stuff. I just set that appointment up because my hand is killing me. So I'm like, today I was just like, oh my God, because usually I can kind of, you know, work on things a little bit, but with this huge event coming up, it's like I am just out straight. From the second I get out of bed, I am running and doing this and doing that and paperwork and packing and doing equipment, doing all this stuff, putting out fires, whatever, and preparing for shows.
Yep.
So it's a lot to do, and it's constant. So it's like I don't have a chance to do anything for me.
Mhm.
And then I come on here going, please just let me make it through this show.
Yeah.
Please, like, don't let me get a migraine all of a sudden, because I can turn
This
my neck one way horribly and get a migraine. It
this
is.
is the woman who will do everything for everybody else. She will fill their cups up to the point where her cup is completely bone ass dry. And she's like, but
You
how come?
swear.
That's right. I'll put some money in your swear jar, okay? Bone booty dry. But she will, and the thing is, there's so few people. Like, we live in different ends of the world. I live in Quebec, Canada, and she's in Pennsylvania. I don't know. Her words, not mine. Pennsylvania. I don't know. I just follow her lead. But I know that if we were closer, I would be able to help her more. But she has a certain core people that do help her. But when she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, like she does every morning, especially the up to
I hear they do that in Pennsylvania.
yeah,
They
that's
do.
what it is. But she drains herself dry. I mean, she's got a show, an event that's coming up in May, mid-May, end of
May
May,
17th, 18th,
May
19th.
17th. She's
Yeah.
packing bags now for all the stuff
Oh,
that
I
they
have
do.
to. I have so much to do. I have to pack bags
Yeah.
now, because we're going to be starting to work down there, at the grounds. We empty, clearing buildings and setting tents up, and, where
See,
people are going to be and
everything.
all that stuff. So you got to get this part done now. And then you go on to the next phase and the next phase and the next phase.
Can I tell you something real quick? If
Yeah.
we're going to work on your neck,
Yeah.
what you're saying right now can cause it to increase by thinking
Okay.
all of the things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I read that.
But I got to tell you, the event sounds amazing.
It will be.
It will be.
It is every year. It goes. I mean, it's like, all this prep, and then it's like gone. And then I got to take my friend to the hospital and Monday morning right after everything, where I don't sleep all weekend, because it's not only that, we have all these people coming and whatnot, it's, we're vending as well. So we're setting up a huge 10 by 20 tent. We'll be outside vending. And then we'll be doing that. And I'll be sending all my worker bees out to do mini ghost hunts and things like that during the day, or work with celebrities, or, in their lines, tending here, tending there. So I'll be doing that. And then we'll be doing ghost hunts all night. And there's, happy hour with some horror movie stars. And there's this and there's that. So there's like, by the time you get back to your hotel room, it's like change your clothes and get back there for the next day, and then do it again for the next day. So there's no sleep, until you get home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that whole thing goes. So yeah, it's stressful, but it's great. I mean, and the whole thing is the benefits the Penhurst. It benefits the grounds. They are working really hard to, tend to all the buildings and upkeep the properties and everything. And you can see where all the money goes, all the events that they have. And it's a good thing. It's a good cause. It's a good thing. I'm glad we're doing it, But yeah, I get very anxiety filled, a little OCD.
And then she comes along, and I have to make her smile somehow, even if that includes swearing on live air.
She never swears. I'm the swearer. She never swears. But I did read about all that stuff in here, and how that to change it to a positive, what I mean, and get that more positive vibes going. We mentioned that a lot,
Oh yeah.
Gloom and doom. Of course, all your ailments are going to really set you down. You're not going to get any better if you're like, oh, I'm not going to get any better. Well, no, you're not. So you do need to, have that positive attitude, have those positive things going in. So that's why I'm like, well, it is for a good cause. So, it does have a positive outcome.
Yes, but what's interesting is this also is that even when if I get like a little bit technical here for a moment, like even when we have like, even when it comes to ongoing illnesses or ailments or health issues, it's like a patterned way of thinking also, like a patterned way of thinking and feeling. And that's what's key, because even like my whole trauma, happened around the events of 9/11 and, the events September 11th. And I wouldn't have thought that it impacted me the way that it did. Of course, I mean, I had so much concern about everybody who was there. And that's, I was only concerned about everybody who was there, but I didn't realize that it impacted me in the way that it did. And so I would say that, the subconscious mind is so tricky. And part of the reason it did that is because, so I was working network engineer operations here in California. So I was on the phone with people in the towers and a colleague in the towers when the plane hit. And it wasn't, so even them
connected. You were connected, literally connected.
Yeah, but it was they yelled like, help me. And then the phone went dead. And all I wanted to do was to be able to help this person. But then, our network went down. And so I was working on, just trying to help and do what I could on my end. And what was then interesting is that as I was trying to help and do what I could on my end, what was also happening was in telecommunications where I worked, there were televisions on the pillar of the building, on like every single pillar inside the building. You always had to know current events. Yeah. And so in the background, I was sitting there watching the footage over and over and over again from 9/11. And then also there was like, are we in red zone? Are we in orange or whatnot for a terrorist attack? And so in my head, it was not only like, I want to go die to save these people, die to save others. And then also the expectation of gonna die. And so there was all of these things, but the events of 9/11 triggered that, but my actual pattern had started at a much younger age. And so that's one of the keys about really getting healing results, is it when we is identifying the patterned ways of thinking and feeling, and understanding that there's energy connected to it, which energy is a whole nother fascinating thing. Understanding there's energy connected to it. And then also not just getting rid of the emotion itself, but also the emotional pattern to create long-term healing. And so there's a depth to it that's really important for lasting results also.
Yeah.
Did you have 5 keys, or did you? Yeah, 5. Well, 5.
Yeah, 5 factors. Yeah, that was a huge breakthrough. So that was one of the clicks. I told you there was a lot of clicks. One of the clicks was that because I could look at it and I could see that, of course, we know that stress affects the physical body. That's been written throughout history, psychoneuroimmunology. Like we all know that. Even the Surgeon General actually released a statement following COVID when there was so much loneliness that would said, hey, actually loneliness increases type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke. So that actually was kind of one of the good things is awareness that came out of COVID, that more and more people are waking up to the awareness that our mind, our emotions does affect our health. But what I started realizing, I said, yeah, okay, we know that. But if I look at this objectively, I can see people who are who've gone through extreme trauma, who have PTSD, who are
Mhm.
traumatized, who aren't sick, and people who are retired, who have not very stressful lives, who are very sick. How does that
Mhm.
work? And that's what led me to the 5 factors of understanding its different emotional ingredients. That was a big breakthrough, and
Right.
the way I what's that?
You're right. And I think of it as this way too, like different people with their, as you were saying, different people have these different things going on, and you can't diminish someone's just because one person thinks, well, that you shouldn't be, traumatized over that, you know, it's like, well,
Yeah.
what are you traumatized over, So everyone has their different
Mhm.
Yeah,
things
but
that
even the
trigger.
things that I've seen, I mean, I've worked with, like, for example, a man who thought about having an affair, who didn't even have an affair, but had so much guilt and whatnot from all of these feelings. He didn't even do anything, and it wasn't necessarily traumatic, but
Mhm.
his pain was and his health issues were connected to that. And so I would say a lot of times people think it's trauma related, but it's not always. But I think the 5 factors and understanding the ingredients is kind of like this, is that, if somebody wants to make cake and they have flour, they
Mhm.
can't make cake. But if they have flour and they mix it with other ingredients, well, now they have cake. And if they mix up all the ingredients, then they have a completely different recipe and an outcome. And so that's how I figured out that, okay, well, people with multiple personality disorder could have different ailments when they're in different personalities because it was consistent. It was like, if one body, Jane, has no health issues, but when she's in Susan, she has extreme neck pain and headaches and high blood pressure. And then when she's in Jody, she has, high blood sugar and high blood pressure and all of these things, and so it was like the health issues were consistent in the same personality. And that's what really keyed in and said, okay, there's a combination here that is important. And that
Mhm.
that was really key. And I see that comment, PTSD is horrible. I wish it didn't affect my health, but it does. I get it. I absolutely get it. I've seen,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Oh,
that
sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry, that was me.
We're playing. Turn off the link. Okay.
Sorry.
I just had to acknowledge, I get it. I understand with PTSD and trauma, and that's some people it does, some people it doesn't. And that's why I felt like I was chasing my tail and trying to understand. And then the energy, what was also fascinating was energy. A lot of people think energy is just woo woo.
Nope.
And really realizing that there is a database under the NASA agreement that
Mhm.
has studies of energy in it, and energy of and there's, I mean, it's been shown that there's different energies from different illness, different uh biophotons, just from different illnesses. But go ahead.
Oh, no, no, no,
Interesting.
no, I was saying hi. When people come in and they say hi, I'll kinda do this, or I might do this,
The only time when you would see me want to talk, I'd be
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Can I put
she'll
my hand up?"
to talk.
Because
I'll just talk.
somebody in this room
That's
doesn't.
perfect. My goal is just to give. So
Yeah.
that is my, I know what it's like to want to heal and to be so desperate
Mhm.
to heal and try every single thing. And it just, so whenever I show up, I'm just like, what can I do or be to
To
help?
help.
Mhm.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, JoJo, the one that with the PTSD, she had a lot of ailments, and she's got a lot of heart issues and things like that too. Now, I mean, like you were saying, how these traumatic events can, deter our health and whatnot. I mean, she's had so much heartbreak in her life that I feel like, does that like resonate and make her have heart issues? You know what I mean? Like, because it's like this whole heart chakra energy area. I mean, is that a possibility?
Absolutely. And so absolutely, like even if you think about it, if somebody has broken heart syndrome, they die of a broken heart. So we know that. And obviously,
I lost
so
my
we
mom to that.
know, yeah, we know that there can be an absolute severity of issues, but people can also have great. So yes, and fear can do it. I mean, somebody can be so afraid their heart stops. Scared to death. That's what happens.
Mhm.
So sometimes what also I'll find with a heart issue is somebody might love somebody they feel like they're not supposed to. So that can happen also. Like they feel like they love an ex and they're not supposed to, and so that can happen.
Yep.
Or a feeling of feeling life is too much, and they're wanting to just say stopping life and feeling like or not trusting life, the flow of life. So yeah, so it just. Mhm.
I like how you put in here when you separated all the issues in the head and the brain and the heart and the hips and the knees and legs and things and neck. It's like you put in there what the issue is, but then you ask us to ask our own questions, questions of us. does is this a factor? Is that a factor? Are you feeling this way? Are you feeling that way? So you do that back and forth. It's like you're having a conversation with us and including us to work here in this conversation. So I love and appreciate the fact that you did that in here, because I think that's going to benefit Jojo. Okay. And a lot of, thousands, millions of people, honestly, I really like the way that the whole thing works with just like being human, and everybody is different. However, you include everybody, and you make us feel included.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's this is what I love is that it speaks to us all because when we stop and think about it, it's even written in the Bible. A merry heart is a medicine to the body, ill thoughts will dry the bones. And it's like we have this innate ability. And I just think that the more that every single person understands that, I mean, there are billions of people suffering from illness, billions, 1.5 billion in chronic pain. And
Right.
when we start to realize we can actually heal ourselves, it's a game changer. I have people who all the time who are messaging and saying, oh my gosh, I healed this and this. And even somebody wrote in on the book, I went through Brandy's course and healed hypothyroidism. And then I had some pain. I just read her book and I got rid of that. And it's because we're all just incredible beings, And so it's incredible.
I know, right? It truly is, and I love that. So me with like just out of one of my things, neck pain, to get rid of this just stress, tension.
You want to do it?
I want to do it.
You want to do it? All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so bingo. All right. So by the way, just a note, because you're going to hear me say bingo, and it's not because suddenly I decided bingo is more fun than being present. Just FYI. So what happened is after I healed myself, I developed an ability to channel. And so then I went from network engineer operations to channeling information. So that was a little bit interesting. And then the word bingo started coming through. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. And I just said, well, at least it's better than Yahtzee. That would be weird.
Bazinga.
There you go.
So, but I wouldn't play bingo with me if I were you. I win apparently all the time.
All right, no taken.
So that's what's going to happen is I'm just going to check in and give me 1 second. That. Okay. So if I ask you your current level of pain, 0 to 10, what's your level?
9.
Bingo. 9. And bingo. 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 If I ask you, bingo. That. Bingo. Interesting. Okay. And are you married?
I am widowed, but I have a boyfriend.
Okay. Bingo. And can you give me, bingo. Can you give me his first initial?
B.
Bingo. Okay. And if I ask you, bingo. If I ask you sometimes if you feel the feeling like he doesn't quite understand you, if I ask you 0 to 10, how much you can find that feeling?
10.
So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And bingo. And I'm sorry, your level of pain 0 to 10 is what?
9.
9. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I want you to notice for a moment where you feel like sometimes he doesn't understand you. When I say the word sometimes, careful. Yeah, we'll say sometimes, but I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to notice the feeling of almost a frustration about it. Now, I want you to notice also the part of you. Can you give me your father's first initial as well?
R.
Bingo. And I want you to notice the part of you that felt like your father, it was hard, like he didn't always listen, and you felt, can you see that part, that frustration? Bingo. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to breathe. Okay, and so I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you just for a moment, I'm going to ask you if you're willing to let go of the frustration. So patterns breed more of the same. Patterns breed more of the same. You know that, right? Repetition, compulsion, reenactments, we've heard before, a woman, unfortunately, can have an abusive father, leave him, find an abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. So patterns continue. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I want you just for a moment to let go of that feeling of feeling a bit like your boyfriend might be a pain in the neck when he just doesn't understand you. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. I'm going to ask you to breathe and be willing to change, remembering your thoughts, your emotions. They help create your life. Metaphysics, your thoughts, your emotions, your mindset. And so I want you to picture what it would look like for you and him, for him to be understanding you. What would that even feel like? If you felt heard and understood, what would that even look like?
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
Great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. That would be amazing. What else would that feel like?
It would be like an aha, finally moment.
Notice for a moment, even when we're talking about this, notice how much even more your heart is opening up. So I see that you love him, but notice even more.
My forehead is like tingling. And I got this whoosh down, came out my hands.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to breathe, and even noticing that your heart is opening up even more. And I know you already love him, but that feeling of connecting and feeling understood like you guys could connect even more. And that feeling of feeling understood and communicating and heard and hearing each other and feeling that. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And I want you to notice, remember, you're the power. So as you change inside, you change your life. As you change your patterns, you change your life. And you see the pattern with your dad and your boy. You see the pattern. You say, okay, look, you're the change. You're the power. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And you see yourself saying, okay, fine, I'm changing. I'm really opening up. I'm feeling more understood. All change starts from within. I'm ready to actually create this change. I'm ready to let go of the upset, the pain in the neck, the frustration. I'm really, really willing to let go of that. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and take in that feeling that you're really willing to change your energy, the frustration, the blah, 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 the pain in the neck, delete, that whole story. You're willing to actually really, really, really get rid of that energy so you can have more of what it is you're wanting and the connection, the love, the being understood. You're willing to get rid of the pattern. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And I want you to notice the level of pain in your neck, 0 to 10. What's your level?
Like a 3.
That's exactly what I would say, about a 3. Great job with your energy. Who's doing that? You are. You're the power. You're the power. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I also want you to notice the feeling of feeling a little bit annoyed with your father as he felt like he wasn't listening, blah, 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 and noticing that feeling. And I'm going to ask you to breathe, and that you could even let go of that feeling because you're really willing to transform this patterns. We all have patterns. We come in with our stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so you're really, really willing to change that. So you let go of that towards your father as well, and even feel, and I know you love him. I see that. And you even feel even more love with letting go of any of the frustration and that story around that. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
I can tell by that face.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Fantastic job. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Oh my God.
Okay. And by the way, I know this seems impossible. That's
Light.
mm-hmm.
Wow. I can turn my head all the way. Oh my God. Oh my God. I love you.
And I do want to tell you, let's say after we wrap up today, if you get triggered by him, it will come back. And so the way you want to think about it is this, is I demonstrated it and showed you what you need to do. And now you would need to say, okay, I'm ready to repattern this. This is my new way of feeling and being, and that you're embodying that change genuinely. Does that make sense?
My click.
Click. Exactly. Especially when you know it's creating the pain, it makes you want to say, okay, never again. And by the way, like even on my website, like I have a person that I did that under medical thermal imaging with in 2015, and her pain never came back.
Yeah.
And that's 9 years ago. And
That
there we go.
Yeah.
And so there you go. And that one right there, it was, let's see, is there
all that whole back thing too. Oh my God.
That isn't it beautiful? And what I love about the one with the back, by the way, he even said, afterwards, he goes, I'm so shocked that worked. He goes, because he took from a level 6 of pain to a 0, and it took about 20 minutes with him, 28 minutes, but to do it under medical equipment. And he said afterwards, he said, I can't believe that worked. I just came from a 10-day meditation retreat, and before that, a positive thinking seminar. So it's not just positive.
No, and it's in here too, and it is in here, and I did read it, but you just did that, and it's so. God, I want to just click. I want to start.
That's okay. I'm going to clip this at the end of the show. I'm going to clip this part out, and I'm going to send it to you, G. So if it starts to get stressful,
awesome.
With you at all times.
Absolutely. And then you repattern it, and it's amazing. That's why I said, we hear about it all of the time. Like, about it, and it's like when we go, oh my God, we actually can get results. Mm-hmm. It's mind blowing. So fantastic job with your energy. Just fantastic. Very wonderful.
Well, thank you. I mean, we do meditate, we do work with our energies and stuff. So I think that made it a little bit easier for a new person. It might take a little bit longer. And like I said, everybody has their different things, but I actually did visualize. My dad not listening to me. He was that type. He taught me everything I know.
I'm going to interrupt.
Go
back into the story. It's going to come back before we even enter this.
Right.
Before we just so you know, and you can go. I don't want to interrupt, but just with respect, I'm just going to tell you, 0 to 10 at a level 12, you're headed back towards the pain direction. Just FYI.
Nope, I'm not doing it. But it's just, I visualized it. I was just like right there with it. It was oof.
What I love. Jojo says, I was doing this with you all and felt the burn in my spine and my legs stopped cramping.
Yay.
There you go, girl.
The very first thing, the first bingos that you said, there was a thing that went from my neck, and it was like a toof, and it went right down my arms and right out through my hands, like whoosh, and then it started going up and tingling in my forehead. It really profound. Honestly, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. I mean, honest to God, people. All right.
And get the book and book an appointment.
Right. And you can work with Brandy.
The link is in the chat room.
That you've taught to do this as well, that other people can work with.
What's that?
You can't handle everybody. So, I mean, have you taught people
what I love is I love people feeling empowered. So technically, usually people either go through my book or through the video course. That's what normally. And then what's beautiful is people go, they'll message in, oh my gosh, I just released my pain, or oh my gosh, I just healed my RA and I had rheumatoid arthritis, and my doctor's shocked that all my blood values are all normal, because I demonstrate pain, but I see all kinds of things. And so people are amazed at their blood work changing, or all kinds of things.
Yeah, because we have thyroid. We both have thyroid issues, and my doctor actually was the last blood work that I did. She was concerned and everything, and she was like, "Well, I take 0.75 milligram levothyroxine, right?" And then all of a sudden she goes, "Well, stop taking it on Sundays." Now, when I get up in the morning, I'm out of it. I don't have my coffee yet.
You're
So
like, what
I
day
have
is it?
I have Trelegy that I have to take so I can breathe. So I do my Trelegy and I take my thyroid pill and I'll either go back to sleep or I'll start drinking my coffee. Depends if the dog's awake. So it's like, okay, so this is what I do because I can't take, the level with all my other pills that I got to take, which is just like, if I could get rid of those, now that will be something, you know? So get rid of all that stuff.
Absolutely. There, I have seen people go from bedridden, and even bedridden, like one person I worked with was bedridden with low blood volume. And so her body didn't make enough blood. And even if she got a transfusion, it still was low. So basically what happened if she sit up, her heart race, because the trying to pump the blood, but there's not enough and you would pass out eventually. And in that case,
Oh,
and she's now running her heart, all everything, EKG's all normal, everything is great.
wow.
So I
Wow.
see people, this is how I look at it is kind of like this, is it's like, I call it, if we think about the brain body connection and we think about it in a simple way, there's a few things that are important to note. One is that if we think about somebody who has a stroke, we think about somebody, if they have a right brain stroke and it can paralyze the left side of the body, left brain stroke can paralyze the right side. And so it's kind of similar, is that when we have emotional activity going on in the brain, it depends on which emotions we're experiencing on where they show up in the brain and then correspondingly affect the physical body is the way I see it. And so it's just going, okay, well, what is the specific emotions, or on a metaphysical level? This
Mhm.
is what I say. Everything is a gift. Everything is a message. It's the way I really look at it is like a check engine light on a car. If you're driving a car and the check engine light comes on, that there's something that needs to be fixed. And with health, that just like we all come in with our patterns. And so it's
Yeah.
basically saying, hey, Gina, psst, fix this pattern because you're going to be more in love than ever and more connected than ever as you fix this pattern. And that's what happens, is that I took my patterns and I said, okay, well, now that I understand the 9/11, this patterns that I had, and I fixed them, and that swoosh of energy, like it's life changing. And that's why I call it the gift in healing, is because it's like our check engine light. We understand what the check engine light is, find the emotional patterns connected to it and change them. And it's pivotal.
It really is. The body is so amazing. I mean, the thing just it's endless, the things that you can think of, what we are capable of, what the body actually does between acupuncture and acupressure, all those different things too. Like, you stick a needle in here and something over there, I'm like, how does that even work? And I think of it as like the ley lines on the planet, how everything is.
I got to tell you, during my injury, they would always ask me, is there anything you're allergic to? And I would say, yes, needles.
Same.
Which technically, I mean, I had a lot of procedures and whatnot, but I don't like needles. So even when you're like, stick a needle here and there, and I know acupuncture is painful, but
I have never done it. I've never done it. I
Oh, I
can't,
have,
I
can't
have.
get myself to do it because I just can't see the
but the thing
needle.
is, you don't feel. I have, and I don't like needles. And for me, I go for a blood test. So long as I don't look at it going in, I'm good. Once it's in, I don't care. I can see it. But I think, and when they ask me what I'm allergic to in the hospital, I go, pain. And like they look at me like I'm a smart ass. And yes, I said the word ass again. And yeah, I am. But they don't. Every so often, depending on where it hits, it's a little like a heat flash. It's like a mini taser, and I'm good. But there was no real pain involved in doing the acupuncture for me, and I don't like.
Yeah, there wasn't. It just, I cringe.
Yeah.
I'd rather do acupressure, not acupuncture. But
Yeah.
I,
And
my muscles are like rocks. You know what I mean? So I don't think they'd even be able to get the needles in there.
this is the thing.
you
Is
use
it,
a chisel, I hammer.
I know I had acupuncture, reflexology, Reiki. I mean, when I was literally doing everything
Everything.
that I could find. And this is what it comes down to, is that when it wasn't working, I said, okay, let me just simplify this. If we look at emotions, which I thought I'm going to need a lot more than emotions to heal my body. But there were, for example, when I started saying, okay, well, how much can emotions affect the physical body? And I started with the simple things like, if somebody's embarrassed, their face turns red. We know that. Somebody having a panic attack, racing heart, shortness of breath, or somebody who can be scared to death, so scared their heart stops, or even studies suggest from Harvard that even that stress can even cause autoimmune conditions. And so when we start to look at it, we know that stress and negativity affects the physical body. And so what I started looking at is saying, okay, different emotions affect the body differently. If different emotions affect the body differently, then how do I identify the specific emotions that are affecting me? To be honest with you, before I stepped into your energy, I thought it was going to be the whole event because you had been talking to about the event. So I thought it was going to be about the event before I actually checked in. And I was like, oh, actually, it's a whole different pattern.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that would be the anxiety in the chest area. Yeah, this is a different story.
Yeah. And the breathing is the event. Not having enough time to breathe. There's no time to breathe. I can't catch my breath.
Yeah.
By the way, exactly. I would invite you to not keep saying that. I just can't catch my breath. I don't have time to breathe. I don't even have a moment to breathe. I would invite you to.
And I say this and I do this and I say it for other people. And, and we've had other people come on and say similar things and we say it. And then again, it's like you do these things, not even thinking,
Yeah, but I would say the pattern for this one starts at age 12. Okay. So that is the key, is that we will fall back into patterns. And what's also really important to understand, like when we start looking at emotions, we think, oh, it's just emotions or it's just a trauma. Let's just get rid of that. But it's a consciousness, because emotions control our consciousness without us realizing it. And a simple way we can observe this is if we think about somebody who's really, really, really in love. If somebody's really in love, what do they see? They see all of the great things in somebody. And if they're really angry or pissed off at somebody or somebody's an ass. No, not you. I was just reading into your word. No.
Another.
You would never call mama an ass. No, I was joining in with your word ass from earlier, but but I'm saying
she put money in the swear jar.
She did it first. All right. So anyway,
welcome to the Fox.
Absolutely. So, but if we're really angry or upset with somebody, what do we see? We see all the negative. We don't do it on purpose. We don't say, "Hey, brain,"
it's just automatic.
See the negative in that person. Hey, brain, only see the good in that person. But it goes beyond that. As I was studying the mind, it's like if we have fear, we see through the lens of fear. If we have a dog sitting in our lap, we see dogs everywhere.
That's right. That's true.
She's a mastiff mixed breed, but she thinks she's a chihuahua and should be able to sit on my lap.
Oh my God.
My chihuahua's over here.
Oh, thank you very much. So I have a question. Now we've worked on physical pain and you say everything has a trigger and a trauma back in somewhere in the past. So if somebody is got anxiety, would that be something, or the need to always constantly feel approval by other people around you? Would that be something that is triggered from something back at a certain point in their age?
Okay, the brain is a little tricky. So yes and no and maybe.
Okay. It's come the whole damn thing. Okay.
Complete. All right. Okay, so this is how it works.
Did I say I love you? I love you.
I love you. So yes, so it depends. Okay, so somebody could have trauma from an anxiety, from a trauma, let me reverse that. Somebody could have anxiety from a trauma. Yes. Okay. But this is what can also happen. Have you ever heard of somebody having sympathy linked up to love, where they feel like sympathy is linked up to love and connection, right? Now watch this. So let's say somebody learns the pattern of sympathy equates to love in their childhood. Now, what has to happen in their life to get sympathy? Something bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then part of the brain says, I need more love. What does it need? Something bad to happen. The other part of the brain says, oh my God, I do not want anything bad to happen. And so what's happening is that part of the brain is wanting something bad. The other part of the brain, of course, logically does not want anything bad. And then there creates a feeling of anxiety. Or another thing is if somebody says, if they feel punishment, like they deserve to have punishment. Yeah, exactly. And it all sounds, for example, somebody says they need punishment. Oh, I feel so guilty. Then I feel deserving to be punished. So then part of my brain thinks I need something bad to happen. The other part of my brain says, oh my gosh, I don't want anything bad to happen. And then we get anxiety or fear from that because, or in our culture, we call it worry. And then we tell people just stop worrying. But everything
I just want to slap those people.
Yeah.
Swear I do.
Stop worrying. But everything the brain does, it's programmed to do. And so, and it may seem very counterintuitive, but
we need all these emotions. We need these emotions to get through life. You need fear. You need a healthy fear so you don't go out and step in front of a car or walk up to a bear and go, oh, you know.
Yeah, we need patterns of fear.
Yeah.
So
that's why we have them. It's survival. It's not that we need to nurture this, what you're talking about here.
Exactly. You know, help. Yeah. So another way to look at it is we think about like pride and hardship. So somebody who has an extreme pride in hardship or pride in self-sacrifice, what happens is they may want to get rid of hardship, but if it's connected to pride, then it becomes impossible. So then people are holding on to that. And one way to think about a miswired mind is if we think about a cutter can unfortunately cut themselves and experience relief or euphoria. So what happens is when things get miswired in the mind, that creates a problem.
Yeah, I never understood that, but that's not me. You know, I mean, it's not, you know, a thing that I've looked into. It's not I've never met a person that actually does that. I mean, I've read the things, I've seen it, you know, studies, whatnot. I don't get it. I don't, you know.
It's because that's the only thing they do. Because I have a friend who did that. That's the only thing that they can control. They can't control all the rest of the stuff surrounding them. Their way of controlling something is they can cut. Nobody else knows about it. Nobody else sees it. It's what they can control. That's the mindset that this person explained to me one time. I was like, I understand. This part understands it, but my heart breaks for them because I'm the fixer. I need to be able to I need to be able to help them somehow, some way. And I know it's not up to me. It's up to them. They have to take the first steps, be it baby steps or whatever. But it's like when they explained that to me, I was like, the brain is going, makes sense. But
yeah. Have you worked with someone with this?
Yeah, and I would say even probably more commonly even people who burn themselves as well. So even I've seen people, so cutters, yes, but also people even taking like a curling iron and burning themselves and then hiding under their sleeves. And so other people know, or under their leg pants. Yeah. So, but everything is just miswired. And so it's like, and that's what always happens is in some way, or for example, a person may hold on to feelings of fear, feeling like fear is going to keep you safe. And then we know that patterns breed more of the same, you know, whether we call it law of attraction or repetition, compulsion, reenactments, attachment theory, I mean, re-victimization. So we can see whether we're looking at psychology, psychoanalysis, if we look at whatever we want to call it, law of attraction, we can see that patterns repeat.
So that would be, I mean, that's crucial, excuse me, to know what that pattern is in order to, like my pattern that you picked up on through channeling very well behind you. So you would have to know this pattern in order to release that. Now it could be multiple things, and it could change too, right? Over a period of time, you know, because we're not in the same mindset. We're not the same people that we were 5 years ago as we are today, or 10 or 20 or 30 years ago as we are today.
Yeah.
know?
And it's the same feeling. So just like, the unfortunate example of the woman who has the abusive father, she may leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, friend. It can show up in different areas. I've even seen people before. There's a woman that I worked with who had that exact pattern and then finally was said, you know what, I'm done with everybody. I'm not working. I'm not dating. I'm not doing anything. And then her son was diagnosed bipolar and started then hitting her also. And then what do you do? So he would go on his medication, then off. What do you do? Say, well, I'm going to get rid of my son because he's bipolar. So it was like
Yeah.
that pattern. And they show up. What's tricky is a lot of times we don't realize that the patterns are connected because they're so subconscious. So it's kind of like even with your dad and then your boyfriend, you go, well, now I see it, but we don't even see the correlation.
Right.
That's
Sometimes you just need something pointed out to you. It could be such a simple thing. And it's like, and it just needs to be pointed out.
exactly. And people all the time go, I can't believe I didn't realize it. And it's like, well, that's the reason it's called subconscious.
Yeah.
I know. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would know. Everybody would be fine, dandy, and happy, and everybody would be,
Exactly. Not only that, but I mean, could you imagine? Because we come into this life and we get patterns and whatnot. I mean, that would be like sitting at our desks in a kindergarten and our teacher comes up and says, hey, here's all the books you're going to need for middle school. Here's all your books for high school. Here's all your books for college. We'd be like, wow. So if we saw all of our patterns all at once, we'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see it grow,
Right. Right. And that's again why I really like the way that you set the book up, because you're walking everybody through a lot of information, but you're asking all the questions, and we're learning. You're going to learn a lot. You guys got to get the book, right? Because you are going to learn so much about yourself that you didn't know. Right? And that's all we can say is we didn't know. Emotion, perception, cycle.
Right? That's right. That's what happens. And that's why it's even tricky because, for example, if we think about somebody who gets stuck in an emotion, let's say somebody has an emotional pattern of abandonment or rejection. And then what happens is then let's say that as they grow up, it continues. And then what happens, they get into a relationship and they might be a couple things. They might be really, really needy, which could then lead to rejection and abandonment. It pushes somebody away, or they might be really hot and cold or afraid to connect. All of these things could push somebody away, or really jealous because they're easily triggered because they expect rejection. So all of these patterns then perpetuate the problem. So then what happens is we have an emotional pattern, then we take action that then perpetuates the problem. We don't realize we're taking it. And then it pushes people away. And then it creates more of the pattern, more of the trauma, more of the stored up. It's just, it becomes a cycle.
And it does. And it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. Well, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm always in the wrong relationship. I'm always in the wrong job. I'm always have the wrong, blah, blah, blah. And then that negativity compounds. By the time you're done, you're down like this and your shoulders are up into your ears and you just expect it. And that's what you're going to find. If that's what you're putting out there for energy, that is what you're going to attract, and that is what you're going to get.
Exactly. Now, the great thing is that I've seen people transform their jobs where they're in the same job, or transform their relationships where I've worked with people who have been in a relationship for 40, 50 years, who then change a pattern that they've had for a long period of time. And they'll say something like this, Brandy, you're not going to believe it. My husband is acting different. Like he just came up and gave me the biggest hug. He hasn't done that in 30 years. And he just came up and gave me the biggest hug and just was so sweet. And he's been so kind and loving. And it's like, because they let go of some type of pattern. And so the great thing is, if somebody's saying, oh my gosh, I'm going to change my patterns and now I have to leave my relationship. No, like all of the time I see relationships transform in a beautiful way.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
It is. It is.
All of it is. I just like, how are we doing on time? All right, we're at 9. You doing okay? You're doing okay?
I'm fantastic. You good?
I'm great. I feel great.
She's freaking awesome. I can see her bouncing around.
Yeah. I know. I do feel great. How are you feeling, Mama? Do you want to try to
That's
work on your hip a little?
No, we're good. I'm trying not to run over a dog. They're all trying to sit under my chair.
How many dogs do you have?
Two.
Cat's outside, thankfully, but I have two.
I love that. I actually have to shut the door. Either that or the cat comes and does the catwalk behind.
Well, you've got to remember, we are pet friendly. As you could see, not like I had a choice. When I had
Now I see.
We should put that on part of our banners, pet friendly. We had a show last week that one of the guests, her cat kept coming in and out of the room.
That would be mine. He decides if I'm not going to pet him, he'll pet me.
Yep. The little paw will come up.
So he'll be really just run behind me, and you'll see this tail like it's so cute. It's so cute. So
here's a good question. I'm just kind of going over my questions here, like, because we go off on our shiny ball moments here, but I just want to make sure that I ask some of these. They're really good questions. And now I lost it. Who was? Okay, where did it go? When you were researching, who was your biggest influence? I can't find it on here, but I mean, it was like, who did you like?
I mean, I would literally say research on multiple personality disorder was one of the biggest influences. I had several because I was studying everything from metaphysics and quantum physics to neuroscience to everything in between. And so I would say, I mean, there was a journal, actually, I'm sorry, an article in Time magazine in 1954 that said that the atoms, 98% of the atoms of the body were being renewed each year. And that was something that stayed in my mind every day when I was like, you know what, if that's happening and I've been injured for how many years? Mm-hmm. So that was something that I just was like, I have to figure this out. Were you going to say something, Mama?
Yeah. 1954. Mm-hmm. That's even before I was born. So how did you, where did you find this article? What was the process that helped you to find these specific things?
I mean, I had bought into every supplement and every diet and everything. And I kind of, after a while, felt like I kept getting duped, like, okay. I felt like I would try this diet or this supplement, and then I wanted it to, and it didn't work. But it said it was going to. And so I just started going through medical journals and wanting to understand, because you hear about antioxidants. So I was taking a ton of antioxidants, but then you look at all the medical journals and all the large studies on antioxidants, all have failed. But antioxidants made so much sense, and free radicals, and then energy. So even, energy.
The gut. Everything's in the gut. Everything's from the gut.
So, but then if we're stressed, you're not dying. It was all of these things. But that's what happened is I said, okay, I'm tired of getting all of these marketing pieces. And I just really want to understand what's real. I have to make sense of it. So I felt like the more I could understand it, the more I could actually implement it. Because between the placebo, the nocebo, so the nocebo is, the negative version of the placebo. So if you're told you take a fake pill and you're told something bad is going to happen, then it can. And I thought a few things. I thought, wait a second. If two people can take the same pill and one is told that it's going to help blood pressure and another one's told that it could help their Parkinson's or IBS and it can help symptoms and it doesn't heal the body, but it helps the symptoms. And I thought, well, wait a second. What is the communication that's going on in the body? Like, how does the body get the memo on that?
Right. Who's sending that signal out there? That guy in the wheels up there is not working.
Exactly. It was more than just a positive and negative. How's the memo getting to the body?
Yeah.
So that it made me want to understand how communication happens. And so I would say that I literally was just studying the repair of the body. And so that's what led me to the 1954 article.
Yeah. And all her research, it came down to this whole.
That's
another book. Do you have more books? Do you have?
Not yet. Not yet.
Just, honestly, I got better and I thought I just want to help
Share
people.
it.
I just want to show people. And I never thought of myself doing it. I thought I'm going to share with doctors. They're going to want to do it. Everybody's going to want to do this. And then, of course, I thought people aren't going to believe that it's even possible. So then I started just showing people and then showing more people and then asked to speak and then asked to do a TED talk. And then, so it just kind of, and then I wanted to write a book to just show people how to do it. But then the publisher said, you need to have a following. And I was like, well, fine, I'll start my podcast then. So then I started a podcast and started showing people. And then I was like, well, I'm going to write a book. I better put this in a medical journal. And so it's just all been this thing to show people.
Supposed to be. It was all supposed to be. How was a TED Talk though? How does that happen? You know, I mean, tell me that whole process and how it was. Because
I would say
I would love to do that.
my process was probably a little bit different than most. But basically I knew I helped somebody who had a health issue. And then that person said, you got to do a TED Talk. And that's how it unfolded. It's kind of like when people get out of pain and they go, are you kidding me? Really? More people need to know about it. That's yes. So, but it's, and following through is key, but it's incredible. And so when we start to understand that our minds, and I know we all hear that we can do this, but when we start to just understand how it works, I mean, if you think about it all the time, I'll see people who've been in pain for 20 years. And if I tell them, oh, hey, you can actually release it in 5 minutes or 20 minutes, and you just have to change your way of thinking.
Right. They'll say you're crazy, but why don't you try it? Right. So, if just try it. If I'm crazy, try it. And if it doesn't work, then you can say I'm crazy. If it works, then you're going to love me.
But the one thing I request is don't start to follow through, get rid of the pain, and then stop following through and have it come back and then say it didn't work.
So in other words, when Gina starts saying that she can't breathe, I can smack her upside the back of the head from distance so that she stops saying things like that.
Exactly. And call her an ass.
Yeah. Okay. See, everybody heard that? I have Brandy's permission to call her an ass and smack her upside the back of the head.
It doesn't need encouragement.
Let's put it this way. Gina and I, when we first became friends, like we've never met in physical life. Okay. We're that far apart. But I'm the person that you can call up. She would send me voice messages. Her stress release was just getting it out there, and she would do it to me. So I would wake up every morning, most mornings, and see a voice message from Gina. I'd be like, okay, let's listen to it. And then she would go on for her thing. And then afterwards, I would send back, I said, and do you feel better now? Goes, yes, thank you. It's like,
yeah. I get it. I'm not surprised you haven't met. I don't know a lot of people who have been to Pennsylvania. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, I'm actually from Massachusetts originally.
That's even worse.
And I've only been in Pennsylvania for what, 7 years now, I think, 6, 7 years, something like that. But yeah, so I'm bringing the mass wholeness to Pennsylvania. I tell it like it is. That's the way it is.
I love that. Yeah, I would love to see you follow through. I just don't. This is the thing. This is how I look at it. Is like this. Is it? People used to think that it was impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes, and then it's called a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister did it. Ran a mile in under 4 minutes, and after he did it, many other people started doing it. Now, when we stop and think about it, there's things to learn from this. A few things. If you ask me, could I run a mile in under 4 minutes right now? The answer is, of course. No. Just joking. No. Okay. Why? Because even though I know it's possible, I have not trained and studied on how to do it. So if I were to train, study, and learn on how to do it, because there are ways of breathing, of running, of all of these things to help speed up your running. So, I mean, you'd have to train, and there's a lot of things to it. But my point is, belief is one, like understanding we can do it is one thing, and actually doing it is another. And so the beautiful thing is when we stop and think about it, the idea we can heal with the mind has been around for thousands of years. And if we can all just then learn how to do it and understand that we can and build that skill, it's incredible. And that's my hope. So I don't want somebody, because when you stop and think about it, it's kind of like this, is that.
Put it up there. Yeah, you did.
Oh. I love that. So when we think about it, if we think about before, we've probably all heard of maybe somebody who's having a panic attack.
Mm.
And panic attack, and they think maybe it's a heart attack. So they go to the hospital because they think it's a heart attack, and the doctor says, no, it was panic. And they go, what? Wait a second.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is on a bigger level, that's exactly what's going on is we have these emotions that are affecting us that we don't realize are affecting our physical body. So somebody with a panic attack who goes to the doctor and they go, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. And the doctor says, okay, it's a panic attack. You really need to get rid of these emotions. We have these emotions that may be hurt or abandonment or anger or fear or not feeling understood or frustration that is affecting different parts of the body. And we just don't realize it. And
Right.
so when we start to then become aware that it's the emotional connection and change it and transform it, it's like it allows the body to heal itself.
Mhm.
It's like taking, if we have a wound on our arm and we keep scratching it, keep scratching it, keep scratching it, it's never going to heal. And similarly, if we have a brain body connection inside that is continuously getting that emotional trigger, it's never going to heal. But if we stop and we change that emotional pattern, that's when it has the ability to heal.
Yeah.
And then women, especially women, going to doctors, we seem to get that brush off a lot more than the men. They'll
Mm.
find something wrong with the men. But women, we're far more complicated systems. So yeah, it's harder. But they pushed a lot of things off on fibromyalgia. It's fibromyalgia. There's nothing you can do about this, whatever. Well, my sister-in-law, they kept saying it's fibromyalgia in her shoulder. Well, no, she ended up having to have a rotacuff operated on, and now she's fine. And it's like sometimes you might have to change your doctor. You do still have to go to doctors. This is not a cure-all for everything, but it could be a cure-all for a lot of things. When you get turned away from a doctor or another doctor, so say you go and you do your paces, okay, you do your footwork. Excuse me. So you get your same thing. Can't find anything wrong with you. Can't find anything wrong with you. Can't find anything wrong with you. Well, then maybe, again, this is the thing that will work for you. All right. So,
Yeah.
I have
emotional, trauma-based.
I have seen people heal all kinds of things. When you stop and think about it for a moment, we've all heard before that stress can actually increase tumor growth. Like studies show stress affects tumor. So what happens if we undo that?
Yeah.
And so if you stop and think about it, like there's even studies that show that stress affects hearing, stress affects eyesight.
Yep.
So stress affects RA. So if you think about somebody who has a good and bad days when it comes to an injury, or somebody who has flare-ups. So when you think about it, we see this on a day-to-day basis. And so
Yeah.
I would say I don't know that there's anything that it doesn't work for. Our bodies are truly incredible. But I would also say definitely always go see your doctor. And what I always tell people is blow your doctor's mind with what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So do this when they can't cure you or they say nothing's wrong with you. You know what I mean, too? Or if they do say, put you on the big regimen of pills or whatever. And if you do this and you can get off of those pills and then go back there and say, hey, you know what, fix me?
Exactly. Do you know how many times I've already had people saying, oh my gosh, my doctor's blown away. I got rid of my headaches. I'm giving him a copy of this book. Like that's what I.
Yeah.
I do like it. I'd love to give this book to my doctor.
It's amazing. And that's the thing is if we all wake up to the awareness and of course, being responsible, that's what I always tell people. They go, oh, well, if it's just my emotions. And it's like, well, remember, somebody can die of a broken heart, or it's not taking your health less seriously. It's taking more responsibility for it. And also continue to see your doctor, blow your doctor's mind. And I think there just needs to be more of a collaboration and people, like, even if you think about it, after surgery, research has shown time and time again, if people are more optimistic, it speeds up healing.
Definitely.
Or in fear or more stress, it increases their chance of rehospitalization, complications, all of these things.
Right.
And so the things that I've seen people, their doctors have canceled their surgery. because their body healed. They said, well, I can't operate on something that's no longer there. I can't operate on a problem that you don't have anymore. And so they'll cancel the surgery.
Right. So in last month, my mom just passed. My dad passed last year at this right after my event, when I came home from my event on May 24th of last year. And then my mom passed like 10 months, almost 10 months to the day, 2 days short of that time. So in January, she felt she was so broken out. They were together for 67 years, every single day, you know. So that was her heart. That was her love of her life, her soulmate.
Mhm.
You know, and she was home alone because we were all gone. You know, the kids are gone. You know, the grandkids and stuff will come see her and stuff, and that was her life. You know,
Mhm.
but when my dad died, she just really did not like being alone, and she had her health issues, but she always bounced back. She had breast cancer. She's had lung cancer. She blew the minds of the doctors because she used to listen to my dad when he would say, your mind can help you heal this. So when she had a quarter of her lung removed, she was the fastest healing person they've ever seen, and they couldn't even believe it.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
know?
I love that. I love that.
And then though, when after my dad passed in January, she fell. She broke her hip, not her hip, but the bone that goes into her hip. And but the reason why she fell was she had 2 heart attacks. So now here she is, 87, not well. There's a lot of things. She has her breast cancer back, her lung cancer back, you know, and they didn't want to do anything because of her age and you know, her just whatever, you know, her general health. Didn't want to do any operations or chemo or radiation or anything like that. Said she can't handle it. But she had to have heart surgery and then hip surgery. And now she's like, it was like not seeing my mom in that person. You know what I mean? She just had that defeatist look on her. You know, like before she always had a reason to fight. And now she didn't. You know what I mean? And she
Yeah.
did. She had all the complications and she had all, you know, all these infection after infection after infection. And then she ended up getting double pneumonia. And then she passed, you know, and then I really think it was mainly from broken heart
Yeah.
Yeah.
that she didn't have that drive, you
Same.
know?
Yeah, something to look forward to, that optimism. Absolutely, all of that. And I do also want to apologize just a little bit because as you were telling that, there was a brief moment where I kind of laughed a little bit. And I would say it's somebody in Facebook's fault because they typed in, it's Charlie's Angels on my phone. And
George.
that's George. Okay, George.
Yeah, that's George. Yep, that's George. Hi, George. Hi, George. Yep.
Hi,
Yep.
George. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet. But yeah, I hear you. When that popped up, I
That's
it was
Yeah.
a comment. So I just want to let you know I was with you on the story.
Until I put that thing up there. It's okay. It's my
yeah, and
Me and George.
and exactly that. When our emotions affect us so much more than
Mhm.
we realize, and exactly that. And what's also fascinating, so a lot of times we think of energy, like if we think about energy of the body, a lot of times people will think of it as being woo, but our emotions control our energy also.
Mhm.
So even you know, but yeah, your mom's condition, you know, it's when she doesn't have that fight anymore, she doesn't have that looking forward to anymore. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was scared because, you know, my sisters wanted to, you know, put her in a home and do this and do that. She didn't want to leave her home, you know?
Yeah.
And now it's it's a mess up there in Massachusetts. All I gotta say. Just
I look at it as the fact that she was without her partner, and that she was her choice to, okay, I'm done with all this fighting thing. I want to go be happy. I want to be with him. As much as and I see it in my father had Alzheimer's, and when he was getting sick, at one point he asked me to help him no longer be here. And I went, you know, Dad, it might be selfish of me, but I want you here. So I'm not going to help you. And it was a selfish thing, but eventually I lost my father. Mr. Hill was still there because I would go in. My youngest son, his middle name is named after my dad's. So when he would come in, when I would come in with the baby, he thought, "Oh my God, how amazing! This child has my name," you know. And it never clicked. But for me, that was that thing. But I knew eventually he was just tired of fighting. So when it happened, and I was okay with his choice. I just wish I had been there at the time, but I knew that wasn't an option. So it's like your brain is kind of going, "Oh, I wish I could have," but so it's for me, it's a matter of I'm tired of fighting and I'm ready to go. It's their way of choosing when to leave.
I would agree. I would agree. And honestly, something that concerns me a bit about Alzheimer's is that, numbers of people who are getting Alzheimer's is
Mhm.
increasing rapidly. Okay. Now, what I see that emotional mind connection as is mentally wanting to check out.
Yeah.
And I see more and more people who are wanting to check out and programming their minds to just, check out in a variety of different ways. And the thing that we have to remember is this is anything we do repeatedly, our brains will start doing automatically. And a
Yep.
simple way to think about it. Have you ever done this before where I've never done this, but maybe somebody's done this before. Have you ever done this before where you drove to a destination that you had been before and you got to your destination and then you thought, "Oh my gosh, did I stop at all the lights?" because you realized you'd been checked out for part of the drive. Have you ever done that?
Yep, I have.
Mm.
I have. Because when I have to drive from here to Massachusetts, it's like through
It's a
Pennsylvania.
note.
It's not a bad drive. And I'll just be like, "Ooh, la, la," and then you get into New York and it's like, ugh. And then you get in Connecticut and it's like you want to kill people.
Hey, warning everybody, do not go to Connecticut.
Especially if you're on the same
You
road.
don't want to
as
drive
Gina.
to
If you're
Connecticut.
on the same road with
They do
Gina.
not mean that literally. Do not
So
abolish.
when did you say you were driving exactly? Just curious. We're here to help your health.
She always does
One
lives
bus
on her
please
trips.
is
So
going to
we'll follow.
be um, right. But my point
But
is,
but I will. All of a sudden I'll be like, oh wow, I'm at the PA line. Already. Like, oh good.
and that's what happens. Is my point is exactly that. Like even with brushing our teeth, or even tying our shoes. When we first start to do it, it takes thought. After a while, we do it automatically. The problem is that any of the patterns that we do, even patterns such as checking out,
Mhm.
can be exactly that, where we have a pattern of checking out. And that's what I've seen with Alzheimer's is somebody will have a pattern of checking out and then their brain starts doing it automatically. And so we really have to think about our minds in a different way and think about what do we want our brains to do and programming them and get everybody should get good at understanding the patterns, repatterning the mind, and really, our thoughts help create our lives. And when we get that and we really understand how to create that shift, it's incredible.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, and this is like an everyday thing. You can't just like what she did for me, and my neck feels fantastic right now. But like she said, I can go right back to it in a matter of
If you
minutes.
jump back down
by-
that rabbit hole.
right.
Exactly. But I mean, this is the thing. So I have been now healthy for 14 years and I haven't had to repeat and reinforce any of the old programming that
Mhm.
I had to do for years. I mean, and I haven't been in pain for years,
Right.
so I don't have to do that anymore. But initially, it's you have to, yeah,
Yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a process, step by step process. But if you see her, if you go on and watch her videos and look at her like courses and things like that, you'll see her. When she was debilitated. She was in the
Yeah.
wheelchair. She got down to like a size nothing, and like she said, she was very skinny. She just she looked defeated. You know, but her mind, she was determined to figure it out, and thank God that you did, honest to God.
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that one of the things that was also fascinating. So thinking about energy for a moment. When we start to think about the awareness that our minds, when we shift our minds, we shift our emotions, that we shift our energy. A
Mhm.
lot of people might think, it's woo woo, which I love the woo, but the fact that we have biophotons emit from, our biophoton emissions change, and we start to think about the biophoton emissions, the biochemistry. we start to think about how powerful our mindset really, really is,
Sure.
it's incredible, and a lot of times people might think, oh, how is our light energy from our bodies going to communicate information throughout our body? But if you stop and think about it for a moment, we're connected via internet, cell phones, all use fiber optics, which is what? Light energy, communicating information. That's the reason we could even send a text message to Pennsylvania and it'll be there at the speed of light.
See? So I expect the message tomorrow morning when I wake up. I want that message on there. Now remember what we did. Remember. Now, George, or Mr. Sprinkles here says cancer just stinks, but he never gave up hope. Docs maybe gave him a year, but now it's been 25 years plus. And it's all about fighting and refusing to lose. Yes, it is.
My boy.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
And that's what this whole thing is about.
And the thing is, it doesn't have to be a huge every step. So long as you're fighting each step, working towards the peanuts on my lap again.
I was just going to say, it sounds like a chihuahua jumped up there.
Okay. Every step, no matter how big, how small, it's still a step. Everything's got processed. So we have to, chills when you read that, yeah. But every step is a process. And you can't wake up every day and go, oh, I want to do it today. You have to get up and go, I'm going to do this today. It's like for me, in a certain amount of pain constantly, but I'm okay with it because I'm sitting there and go, you know what? I'm better than I was yesterday and I'll be better tomorrow. I'll be better in 5 minutes. It's like, I'm still going to do it, and and the thing is, people will sit there and go, I have it so difficult. And I sit there when I'm in my high pain mode, I'm like, oh, I'm dying. I want to just chop off the lower half of my body and I'll be happy. But it's like, it's not an option. It's not an option.
Can I tell you, you sounded like me right there during my injury. And then I was like, well, but then this is the thing. Then I started researching amputees and realized that about 80 to 90% of them still experience pain. So then I thought, I just want to try. And then I was reading that medical journal and I thought, great. So I could even amputate my body and I'm still going to have a pain.
Exactly.
I'm still going to be in pain. And that's, and that's when you look at it and you really realize everything points to the mind. The fact that the body is constantly repairing and replacing cells and, just it's fascinating. I think that is one of the things that kept me going all of the years is I was saying, this doesn't make sense. And multiple personality disorder was really a huge thing.
Yeah.
I thought, wait a second, how does the same personality always have the same illness and a different personality has a different illness?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you said that, I was like, it's the same body. So why is it, but it's here. It's not physical. Yes, the physical body has part to do it, but the majority of it, 99% of it is all because of the mind, everything that each personality is going through. That's how they think it. So it's like interesting. It makes sense, but you just never realize it until somebody pointed it out. So yeah.
Exactly. You think about
when you were looking into the multiple personality thing, did you see what part of the brain that it triggered? Did it trigger different parts for different personalities?
It would it would have different, it depends on which journal that I was looking at, but a lot of them just said this personality and this personality have a distinctly different EEG. But what was fascinating was is that there was a person because I started thinking about, well, if different emotions generate activity in different parts of the brain, and that's how they could affect different parts of the body. Because, for example, if I thought, well, how is it consistent? And that's what I started looking at, was the emotional stroke, if you will, was thinking about, if somebody has a stroke on the right side, it affects the left side, right side. So it does matter where the stroke is. Well, then it must matter
where the other thing is.
Yeah, then it should matter where the emotions happen. And then, so as I was reading it, there was a study of a man who had been having seizures. and he was having seizures, and he also had a lot of intense fear. And they removed a part of the brain, and basically it was in the insular cortex, where as they did the removal, it actually, he stopped having the seizures. And
Yeah.
what it was showing, though, is basically they noticed that he was having fear, and also that as he was having fear, he was experiencing, he had nausea, all of these things. Now, what was also fascinating at the time is there's something called the homunculus map, which is like a brain body map that was discovered from neurosurgeons. And what was fascinating is that they could stimulate different parts of the brain,
Mm.
and it showed up in different parts of the body. So that's ultimately what they did. And so you could also see that different parts of the brain were directly connected to different parts of the body. And so it was all just understanding the brain body map and how that all worked. And what's fascinating is that and so during my injury, I thought of it as an emotional stroke, but at that time, a lot of people thought all emotions were centered in the amygdala, et cetera, et cetera. And that was a major belief. However, in 2013, researchers from Carnegie Mellon University actually proved that different emotions do generate different patterns and different neural activity in different parts of the brain. So if somebody's sad, it generates it in one way. If somebody's happy or disgust or fear, it's completely different. And so those emotional
So
patterns.
that's why I was thinking, like, if they could prove that, all right, so you have a person that has 3 personalities, and in each personality, if they have this, whatever they show the brain how it fires or whatever, whether you're in the tube or whatnot, I don't know how you would do this, okay, but if they could distinctly show where this is, and say you have a destructive type personality, like wherever that brain part is activated, could we actually fix it? Can we go into the brain and actually fix that? Or can you just, because I would imagine that you would have to have this person cooperate with you in order to use this method,
In order to have each personality come through.
So that could prove to be difficult.
Yes, but what they did even at Carnegie Mellon University was that they had people who experienced the same type of fear or feel it. They did the same, like 2 people they would have feelings of disgust. And then they had more like go into feeling of disgust, go into a feeling of fear, go into a feeling of feeling happy, go into a feeling of, and so it was going into specific different emotions in random order. So they had a machine learning and fMRI scan on the brain. And they had people go through all of these different emotions, and they found that the same emotions resulted in the similar brain scans of the same neural activity. So we don't even need to necessarily so with somebody with multiple personality disorder, I mean, if we think about just emotions in general, we can see that there's different patterns of emotions. And so instead of going in to fix the brain, if everybody knew how to work with their mind, because so as I was studying this, the research study that I found was a woman who was blind with multiple personality disorder. So she had been blind for 15 years, medically blind, shown to be blind in all of her personalities. And slowly, as she was going through therapy, she started to get her vision back. And so that's what did the first medical study in the medical journal. And then as she continued, she was able to get vision back in more of her personalities. And it wasn't just pretending not to see, they actually did brain scans on her and showed that. And so that was something that was profound also. And so,
That is awesome. So it would just trigger me to want to learn more. You know what I mean? I constantly want to learn. I constantly do.
Yeah.
That's why I read so many damn books. I constantly want to learn. So if I started sitting in and going after this one subject, I'm like a dog with a bone. I would be just like you did. I would be all over it. I would be everywhere, past, what's the future thing is going to be holding? What are we doing in the future? What's planned for the future for this? What's the stem cells going to do for this? What's going to happen, right? So I'd be thinking medically, energetically, this, that. I would be looking into it all, and then it would be never ending.
My hope is that every single person learns how to use their own mind, because when we start to realize, and what happens is just like this, when I healed myself, I got this gift. Now I channel information.
Right.
Which is not something like I would have said, hey, I'm going to go from network engineering and operations to then figure out how to heal myself. By the way, I'd like to then start channeling information.
Yep.
Like, that wasn't actually, and in fact, I hid it for like a couple years because I thought people aren't going to understand this. I don't even know how to even describe it. So if you see my TED talk, what I describe it in my TEDx talk, I say, after I healed myself, I developed this ability, and I say it's something like mirror touch synesthesia, which is a medical condition, a mirror touch synesthesia. It's medically proven. It's a medical phenomenon that where one person can feel what another person's feeling. So in my TED talk, I was like, it's kind of like mirror touch synesthesia, where I can feel what others are feeling, or we could call it like intuition on steroids, whatever we want to call it. So I had to find a way to kind of normalize it a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My point is, that's my hope, is that everybody starts learning how to learn how to do this. This is what I think also. I think that cell phones are like training wheels for ESP. It's like we're all going to be able to communicate without them, but we have these training wheels called cell phones right now. And or I should probably do more like this instead of like
Old school girl.
old school. I mean, we still this for rolling down window.
Yeah.
We were in that school.
Yeah, but so I would say the more that every single person wakes up to us having this ability and realizing it, that's what excites me.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just look at the woo-woo effect. Years ago, people wouldn't like, excuse me, a witch, ooh, that's a scary thing. A medium, psychics, that's a bunch of hooey. Energy healing, bunch of hooey. But with time, we've learned, for me, being open-minded to the possibilities, and then allowing it to happen, allowing your brain to understand the things. So everything over time so eventually we will be able to telepathically. So George, watch out.
The Germans wanted to use that in World War
Charlie's Angels is coming after.
There you go.
Yeah.
Celebrate with you, George.
George, I'm sending you a message.
But this is what's fascinating. Okay, so energy of the body was actually medically discovered in the 1920s. And the gentleman who discovered it was nominated for the Nobel Prize 11 times and even won in Russia. Now, the crazy thing is that was in 1923. So 100 years ago, 100 years ago. And people still think energy is woo-woo. And so what's interesting, so he initially called it mitogenetic radiation. And a simple way to think about energy of the body is if we think about a light bulb, it emits particles of light. Or the sun, it emits particles of light. And they're called photons, particles of light. And so the body emits what are now called biophotons, or when it was initially discovered, mitogenetic radiation. But either way, so we have these particles of light emitting from the physical body that were medically discovered, and obviously, there's auras and angels and stuff, thousands of years. But when energy was medically discovered was 100 years ago. Right. Now, what's fascinating is that fast forward even to couple of weeks ago, there's a database that is under the NASA agreement that is maintained by the Smithsonian and Harvard that actually has current studies in it. Now, the only problem is some of these studies, and they're wonderful. I don't want to say there's a problem. The researchers are wonderful, and thank you that they're doing that. But a lot of the research that I've found wants to use it as another diagnostic tool, because studies have shown that, if somebody has type 2 diabetes and somebody else does not, there's different energy patterns. Or cancer emits different biophotons, different energy than non-cancerous cells. So a lot of researchers are excited about collecting a database of these different patterns and frequencies to then be able to use it as a diagnostic tool. So if somebody has this energy, then they have type 2 diabetes. If somebody has this, then they have this. So there's research compiling.
Yeah.
Now, the thing of it is I didn't need another diagnosis. I just wanted to heal.
Yeah.
So I was looking at it from that lens, and there are studies.
Sick of pain. You want to be out of pain.
Yes, that was it. And so I said, okay, well, okay, we know this body's, our bodies are emitting this, and we know different cancer cells have different, cells than, or different biophoton emissions than non-cancer. And so it was like different illnesses. And what was also fascinating is that there were studies that show that our minds control and can change the biophoton emissions. For example, there's one study where participants in a study are visualizing white light. And as they do, there's increased biophoton emissions from the right side of their head, but not the left.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also other things. It's kind of interesting. There's a study where participants are experiencing increased anger, and it increases their energy and their biophoton emissions. And so when we stop and look at it, you'll hear people with energy healing say, just increase your energy to heal.
Mm-hmm.
But if we think about it, it's not just about increasing your energy to heal. The awareness that different energies affect us in a different way. And I love that. Sending love, that's sweet.
Yeah. Now,
There's no
I want to bring
choice.
this part up now too, because the neurotransformational music technique.
Yes, that was so helpful. So helpful. So in changing my emotions and saying, okay, well, I have to then reprogram my mind and reprogram my emotions. I thought about it like this, is that all the time people will try to just think positive. But the problem with think positive is that we have to get, our brain works in neural pathways. It works in patterns.
Yeah.
And so ultimately what we needed to do is we need to establish new patterned ways of thinking. And we can think of it like this, like a big field of grass. If you take a different way through the grass every day, you don't establish a pattern. But if you do the same way every day, you establish a path. And so so to make something subconscious, we need to have patterns. We need to have new paths. And so one way to think about that is doing the alphabet every day. What happens is we then learn the alphabet. And so for me, going, okay, well, I need to establish new patterns, emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just think positive, because thinking positive is great, but that's not a pattern. And so I started thinking about, well, how do I do that? And for me to suddenly feel joyfully happy, genuinely every day, multiple times a day, over and over and over again, would have been impossible. And of course, I was doing the gratitude practices and the affirmations and all of these things. And it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it's nice.
It has its moments, and
it had it can be nice. But part of my problem was also that I had survivor's guilt. So gratitude wasn't exactly the best thing I needed. Yes. So it was a mixed bag. Gratitude was great. And also I needed to really change. And so what I did with neurotransformational music technique was I basically, and I was a mess. I mean, my brain, I would hear the trash truck drive by, and I would literally think, I wonder if I can put my wheelchair in front of it fast enough to just everything. It was just, my brain was on autopilot wanting to exit. And I thought, I really need to reprogram. And so what I would do is I started with just 2 songs. And one song was Beautiful Day by U2. And another one was Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves.
Yeah.
Right. And I
used to clean my house to that.
Right. Don't you love that song? But what I did is I used it as a tool where I said, okay, I'm not going to multitask anything, which I wasn't really doing a lot at that point anyway, but I would just literally amplify the emotions as much as I possibly could, and amplify them as much as I possibly could. And basically, a long story short, in addition to rewiring my mind. So earlier we talked about miswired mind. So I needed to rewire my mind. But in addition to that, bringing in these emotions as strong as I possibly could did a couple things. It helped me to be able to access these emotions repeatedly, because without doing this, it would have been impossible for me. It would not have even been realistic for me to access these emotions over and over and over and over again to be able to program them in. So I did that. And then also, when you do that and you really create strong positive emotions, it triggers a biochemical release. So here I was also getting a bunch of positive biochemistry in my body as well. And so that's another thing. But it allowed me to establish new positive neural pathways. And it's kind of like compound interest, if you will, because as you start getting these emotions in your nervous system, at first it might not be life-changing. You start getting it in.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep doing it and you amplify it, it's like compound interest and new neural pathways.
Bring it, baby.
There you go.
I love you. I just exactly. And you establish new patterned ways of thinking, and it shifts your consciousness. It's powerful for so many reasons. Right?
Very true.
It really is. And you get the clicker, now we get to bring it. We got it all. We got it all.
Show me the money. Okay, I've got to put this. I've just got to read this up. Okay, so George says, Brandy, that was me. 2 grand mal seizures and radiation fear brought it on after being told I had 1 year to live. So, Brandy, you are spot on. And then the next one.
That was a conversation we were having at the time. And
and the next one. I missed so much of the show tonight. Can we start over? This guest is so intelligent. I feel like I'm in the stands listening to a professor. Hope that sounds good and not weird.
Well, then you should watch her 90-minute program.
Yep. Because I put links into the chat room. Everybody gets to see. I put links in for your TED Talks, your free 90-minute class, and then just your website in general. So people go do your thing.
And the 90-minute program is really helpful because there's also a lot of misconceptions with working with the mind as well. So that's
right. So you can get her book too on Amazon. Can they also order it through your website?
Not my website, but Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Oh, there is actually a link to the book. Actually, if you go to brandygilmore.com/book, there is a link there as well. Okay. Or Barnes and Noble, and then also check out the free training, because it also, and you have a link down there, you said? Yep. Yeah. Because that can help also.
TED Talk, and that is your website, and Mama D's been putting in all kinds of links into the chat rooms, so you can go from the chat room, just click right on the link and get right to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like that. Yes. You got all that high tech. You're on it.
She's on it. She's on it. I'm just yapping. But again, jeez. Oh, you do have a part in here too that I circle all this. I'm sorry, I'm all my.
She will not be able to give away these books that she reads because she's got them circled, squiggled, band folded.
4 C's for change. I have that all circled, and the section on mourning and depression.
Is that what they have in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
I love that.
I did say that I'm not originally from here, right? I'm not from here. I'm from up there where I park my car in my yard, right, in Massachusetts.
That's why she's probably pronouncing it.
By the yard. Okay.
In the yard. Yeah.
In a corner.
Yeah, on a corner. It's on a corner. Get out of here.
Those big chihuahuas in Canada.
Such a putz.
Come here. Hold on. Come here.
Hello.
Come here, Biscuit. Come here.
Okay.
Come here. Here we go. Come on.
She's like, it's close to the end, Mom. I gotta go potty.
Oh.
Okay, so here's my little chihuahua.
There we go.
He does look like a little fox.
Little chihuahua?
Yeah. Yeah. He is. Hi.
So cute.
It's a little one.
Yeah. Does he look like a little fox?
Is it a little? Is it underfed? by chance?
Yes.
Underfed. He was very little when I first got him.
He doesn't look underfed.
No. No.
I don't think our babies get.
When anybody says this, let me get that little chihuahua. That's kind of an indication it might not be
good.
Oh,
Besides
Joel.
Mama D, will you be my best friend?
Yeah.
Priceless. I freaking love it. Yeah, no, he was like 9 pounds when we got him. Now he's like 20.
I was gonna say he doesn't look so little.
Or he's being abused by
Right,
good
we're-
food.
So stop eating
Oh,
treats.
wait.
He's well
Go away.
fed.
Go, no, not yet. Go away.
Oh god. But honestly, we're just like down to our last minutes. All right, I want to know what your final thoughts are that you want to leave our people with on how they can heal themselves the easiest way.
Get the
I
book.
get the book. This is what I would say. We're truly amazing beings, and we've all heard this. It's written throughout history, metaphysics, in the Bible, 3,000 years. I hope that it's our generation that actually puts this to use. I mean, it's written in the Bible. The very heart is a medicine to the body. We can look at energy, biochemistry, multiple personality disorder, different ailments. We can see the evidence, the placebo, nocebo, it's everywhere. And my biggest desire is that it's our generation that says we are going to make this a new norm. Like we have to, how do we do that? How do we make it a new norm? We have to get results. We have to. So my hope is that you buy the book or take the video training, whatever. And there's a free link for the video training, 90-minute training, but either way, that we all just learn how to get results. We follow through and it is worth it. I've never had anybody heal themselves and say, man, I wish I didn't do that. Instead,
right? Exactly. I feel great. I still feel great. Right? I feel like giddy. Like,
isn't it amazing? Like you do.
I had that pattern since I was from like I said, it was 7 accidents from 16 to like 21 almost, right? All that time. So my whole life, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to have this neck pain forever. I'm just going to have this neck pain forever,
Exactly. But that's the thing is that, and that's why, because the pattern started with your dad, also the accident, like, in other words, I had accidents. I had my accident, I had my fall accident, my car accident, and yet everything happens for a reason, and so it's like, and so we say, okay, that's just my biggest hope, that everybody feels this sense of empowerment, because as we do, we change our patterns. And then, I mean, could you imagine being even more in love with life, in love with relationships, in love with self? I mean, it's just.
I can.
Yeah.
I want it. Like,
right. In love with you guys. You're just beautiful and wonderful. And I love your laughter and your sense of humor and your playfulness. It's been such a pleasure. Just thank you for having me.
I'd love to have you back on sometime. I would, because this was the fastest 2 hours I think I've ever spent in my entire life.
I looked at the clock and I was like, that's not the time.
That can't be right. Yeah.
And Gina thought this was only going to be an hour.
Hang with us. I'm going to play my exit video, but hang with us just for a minute because I want to ask you a couple of questions. And everybody else, we'll see y'all next week. And we're going to be talking about Feng Shui, okay, next week. So we'll see you all then. Please, 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 just look up Brandy Gilmore. All right, go get that course. Get this book. You will love me.
It's so worth
love her if you get this, okay? Because you saw it here on the Fox app, okay? So much love, buona notte, everybody, and see you next week. Ciao, ciao. We thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D. We are here every Thursday evening from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you a variety of guests. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, as well as our Anchor audio venues. We hope you enjoyed our show and our guest, and we would love it if you would go to our YouTube channel, The Fox Den with Gina B and Mama D, subscribe, and definitely hit that notification button to never miss a show. We'll see you all next week, and subscribers, watch for our pop-up shows as well.